guys, thanks for joining me here at Ruby Keyvani Weddings. I'm Ruby, in case it's not obvious. I want to thank everyone who's already subscribed to this channel, and if you're new, welcome. This channel is all about weddings, so I want this to be like your one-stop shop for all things wedding. Someday. This is only the beginning. Today I wanted to talk about my own wedding. I've been getting some questions regarding any regrets I've had, or how much money I spent. Did I go over budget on my wedding? You know, things that maybe I should have saved on. What did I splurge on? We all get curious, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I want to be an open book. So first of all, I want to get the money factor like out of the way. How much money did I end up spending? So my original budget was $25,000, and then once I started like looking into weddings a little bit more, I upped it to $30,000. And I was like, the absolute max I want to spend is $30,000. It's one day. I don't want to spend any more money than that. And my total at the end of the day was around $40,000. So I did go over budget quite a bit. I do live in San Diego, and Southern California weddings are not cheap. So I really think it's based on where you're located and the style wedding that you want to have. Things I ended up saving money on were the venue. My venue was actually really affordable, and the reason being was that it was a blank canvas. They don't give you anything. And that's kind of what I wanted, because that's where you can save on certain vendors. So I was able to bring my own catering, which I actually saved so much money on catering. It still wasn't cheap, like dirt cheap, but it was way cheaper than if I had done it any other way. So I had a buffet style dinner. I wanted something a little bit more casual, so I like the idea of a buffet style. That way people can mingle and it's not so like serious. Especially for an outdoor wedding, I think it would have been pretty ridiculous to have like 4 courses, you know? So I opted to go for a buffet style, which right off the bat, buffet versus sit down, like 4-course, saves you money right there. Also, the nice thing about our venue was we could bring our own alcohol and our own bartenders. So actually the bartenders were a living nightmare, like horrible bartenders. So I actually really would not recommend them, and unfortunately they were recommended by my wedding planner, and that's why I went with them, which is like, I'm really disappointed. It's like the only thing in my wedding that I absolutely hated was the bartenders. And actually during my wedding, I thought everything was fine. I didn't think the bartenders were rude or anything, but they ended up being horrible to all of my guests. They were really nice to Zach and I, so we didn't really think anything of it. Sorry, my nose is itchy. But after the fact, a lot of our wedding guests told us how terrible they were, and like they were sticking their hands in people's drinks. So that's like really unacceptable. One of the guys, so we hired 2 bartenders, and one of the guys left like at the very beginning of the wedding. They just left. The guy just left, didn't say anything. So my stepdad went behind the bar and he was making drinks with the other bartender. The bartender that had stayed, he was really rude to all of my guests, and it's not just one person or like my mom who told me. This is multiple people had told me that this guy is really rude and just like didn't want to be there. And then the owner of the company ended up coming and serving the rest of the night. He was amazing and everybody loved him, but at that point it's like when you have one guy who left, the other guy stayed but was rude to my guests, that just really leaves a bad taste in your mouth. But we were able to bring our own alcohol, hire our own bar service. As long as they had a license, we're good. So that was nice, and allowed us to save a lot of money on food and alcohol, which for most people at weddings, that's a huge expense. So for us, we were able to save there. So that's nice. Things I went over budget on. Number one, florals. You guys, I don't know if you follow me on Instagram or maybe saw my little 1-minute wedding teaser on my other channel, but my florals were so beautiful. Honestly, I got so many compliments on my florals. Everybody at the end of the wedding asked me for my florist's phone number because she is amazing. Her name is Carla Kays. I 100% recommend her. She is such an artist and I have so much respect for her. She's just amazing. Honestly, like, I'm just so happy about my florals. I did go over budget a little bit. It wasn't anything too crazy, and I 100% do not regret spending that money on florals. Florals are very important to me. I think they make or break your wedding, in my opinion. From a design standpoint, I think when someone has really beautiful florals, you can have kind of cheap decor, but your florals will like set the tone. That's just my opinion. I mean, you might think differently. For a lot of people, they don't care about florals, but I've just noticed from looking at Pinterest and Instagram, the weddings that don't have their florals done very well, I'm always like, it's whatever. But that's just me. I put a huge emphasis on florals, so I didn't mind going over budget and getting like the best florist that I could find. She definitely did work with my budget and helped me cut certain things out, but it was really important to me to have a centerpiece at each table, and I wanted my bridesmaids to all have a small bouquet, and then I obviously had a pretty big bouquet. It was so beautiful. Another thing that was really important to me that I ended up going over budget was photography and videography. God, videography was really expensive, and it was actually more expensive than photo, which sucks, but at the end of the day, the only things you're left with from your wedding are photo and video. So I really wanted a very high quality videographer. I wanted something different. I didn't want the same old wedding film. I watched so many wedding films that at the end of the day I got sick of the same exact editing style, and I just wanted something unique. The cost that I think I could have saved on was, and I hate to say this, but wedding planning. I loved my wedding planner. She was freaking amazing, but it's not necessary. And I think I would have been fine doing maybe day of or month of coordination because I pretty much know what I want. So what I did was I did full service planning. So from beginning to end, I was working with my planner, but for a lot of the time I was doing things on my own, and that's because I know what I want, I know my style, and I'm very picky, so I'm not one to give control to someone else. I feel like if you're the type of person where you'll just, you know, let your wedding planner plan everything and then you're just like, okay, yes, 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 or no, 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 then full service planning might be worth it for you. For me, it wasn't worth it. Calligraphy and paper goods on your wedding. Honestly, as beautiful as it is, it's such a waste. And maybe it's just because of my guests, maybe your guests are different, but people just don't care about paper goods. So our save the dates, which actually our save the dates were pretty affordable. We used Minted. Highly recommend Minted because they save you so much money on like hiring a calligrapher, and the end result is still really nice. So our save the dates weren't that expensive, but our invitations were. I didn't do programs, which I'm so glad I didn't do programs because based on like my menus, they would have been such a waste. So I had menus, and at the end of the night, menus were on the floor and people just didn't really care about a freaking menu. So it was really pretty, and like I spent a lot of money on it, but people just don't care about paper goods. Now I want to talk about things that I wish I would have known, or any advice I can give to current brides. Well, number one advice is either know all of your vendors, meaning, you know, from word of mouth, you've heard that they're really great, or wedding planner recommendations are always awesome. And the good thing was almost all of my wedding planners vendors were amazing, with the exception of my bar service. Everyone else that my wedding planner recommended was really, really great, and they all had excellent reviews. So definitely using your wedding planner's preferred vendors is ideal because you know that they're, you know, going to take care of you at the end of the day. I've heard horror stories about people's vendors flaking or even the venue itself flaking. So at that point, you know, you want to make sure that you've read Yelp reviews or TripAdvisor if you're doing like a destination wedding. Just do your research, make sure you're hiring reputable vendors, because otherwise your vendors can really screw you. You can't just go by someone's Instagram page because it's easy to block and delete negative comments or feedback from Instagram. So really make sure that your vendors have a Yelp page. I think that's huge. Decor was very important to me, so I did want to have really pretty tables. TBD in San Diego is amazing. They're so nice, and they just have excellent customer service. They were recommended by my wedding planner. I'm so glad I used them. They were relatively affordable, so I, you know, had my chairs and my tables, and what else did I rent from them? Chairs and tables. I think that's about it that I rented from TBD. They were amazing, and their furniture was really great quality. It was in great condition, and it was beautiful. So decor was very important to me, and my chairs were not the cheapest, but again, that's like something you can cut down on. I just really did not want Chiavari chairs. I hate Chiavari chairs. I just think it's super overdone, and it just didn't really go with the look of my wedding. So I probably would have saved, I think the cost of what I spent on my chairs would have been cut in half if I did Chiavari chairs, but I really hate Chiavari chairs. So I spent double what I was intending to spend on the crossback chairs, but they really ended up going with my vibe, so I don't regret spending that money. A tip I have is, instead of doing the traditional like round tables with linen on top, I would look into renting like farm tables if you're going for that kind of look, because the cost to rent a farm table is what linens can cost sometimes. So for me, it ended up being just maybe a little bit more expensive to get the pretty farm table versus the linen table. So for my tables, what I did was I did half of them long and rectangular farm tables, and the other half I did round with linen over top. And I really like the look of not having everything completely uniform and matching. The long tables, my florist actually gave us her runners, really beautiful runners, which would have been expensive to rent or even purchase, and she gave that to us for free just for the day of, so she didn't charge us for that. That was really nice. Also, all of our vases my florist provided herself, so I didn't have to rent or purchase those. That was also really nice, so we saved some costs there. So my florist was definitely worth it. And her vases were super pretty and really went with the vibe. So if you're gonna hire a florist, try and find someone whose rentals or her equipment kind of goes with your vibe, and ask if she can provide that like with the cost of your florals. That way she doesn't charge you for them, or you don't have to go out and rent or buy them yourself. So a couple more tips that I have. Another really great resource that I discovered way too late are Facebook groups. So I know a lot of people aren't active on Facebook anymore, but there's a huge community just for weddings. So there's wedding resale groups, people who, you know, have their wedding and then just need to get rid of stuff that they use or didn't even use. They usually sell it for really cheap. And so I would just go on Facebook in your area and search wedding resale groups. There's a ton out there, and people are constantly posting stuff, really pretty stuff too. So that's a really great resource. I also really loved Beholden, which is Anthropologie's wedding brand or wedding company. They have beautiful stuff, and I actually think for what it is, it's a pretty decent price. I didn't think they were way too expensive. So Beholden is definitely worth checking out. So something that I really want to put out there regarding weddings, I was stressing out because I had drama within my bridesmaids, and actually one of my bridesmaids, she ended up moving, and I haven't even talked to her since, you know, she told me she's moving, and so obviously she's not able to make it to my wedding. And one thing I want all brides to understand is, I understand it's your important day, but just because you're getting married, the world doesn't stop moving. You know what I mean? So it is the most important day of your life, but it might not be the most important day for everyone, which sucks, especially when it's like a bridesmaid and you're depending on that person. So I wouldn't put so much, not faith, but I wouldn't put so much responsibility on a bridesmaid or a family member, because you are at risk of getting disappointed and your expectations not being met. So and for me it was like, how can you not like care about this as much as I do? But it's like, you can't expect everyone to care as much as you do. They're not going to. So if you will realize that early on, and I get a lot of questions from girls who are like having bridesmaid drama, and honestly I think not even having a wedding party is the way to go. That's like the way you're gonna save yourself from disappointment, and you won't lose any friends. So it sucks to kind of say that, but I think not even having a wedding party would have made things so much more simple, avoid so much drama. But that's just my opinion. Sorry, I had to adjust the lighting a little bit because it's getting kind of dark outside. But yeah, I would just, you know, depend on yourself, your wedding planner, and that's about it for things that are super important to you. And you just can't really trust anyone with your wedding. I think that probably sounds really bad, but it's the truth. And I just think when it comes to family members and friends and bridesmaids, brides just really need to lower their expectations. I mean, they think having a bridesmaid is like the end all be all. Someone has promised to like sign their life away to you for, you know, however long until your wedding, and that's not how it should be. So at least for the majority of brides out there, they're just having so much disappointment from bridesmaids, and I just think that there's way too much emphasis on the role of bridesmaids and maid of honor, and it's just like, these people are human, they have their own life, they have their own things going on. You're the bride, not them. So like, I just would not put so much emphasis on wedding party. So that's everything that I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope it was helpful. As always, leave me comments down below or DM me on Instagram if there's anything you want me to talk about, or if there's any questions you guys have just about weddings, or if there's a video you want me to make. Just let me know and I will do it. Alright guys, I will see you in my next video. Don't forget to check out my Instagram and my main channel. I will put links for everything down below. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you next time.